All right, thank you so much for attending today's Hear from Peers. Welcome again. Hopefully, we are at a great time. Thanksgiving almost coming, so hopefully this will be also a great conversations. Even next week probably will be take a break for everybody's. So thank you so much, Dr. Wu, for presenting for us. Dr. Wu is a professor. Hold on, let me pull the information. Dr. Wu is a professor in the Department of Ecology and Conservation Biology, and he is a presidential professor for teaching excellence at Texas A&M University. The current research of Dr. Wu's lab group is focused on the spatial ecology and biotic herbivory in savanna landscapes, and associated education program focused on educator development and educational innovations. Other recent projects include landscape biogeochemistry of savanna systems, ecology of terraced landscapes, and authentic scientific inquiries in introductory ecology courses and their effects on student learning. He teaches a large enrollment introductory ecology course and a graduate course on landscape analysis. Dr. Wu, feel free to start your presentation.
Thank you. Well, since we have a small group, so please stop me anytime so we can have a more of a conversation. I think will be interesting discussion. So here's the title I gave to Armando about developing AI perspectives and competencies in the context of an introductory ecology course. And the competent, maybe just let me go to a slide. I think most of us at this time recognize that AI competencies are really important, essential for the success of our students. So we really need to do more to help them developing those competencies. And there could be definitely kind of a concentrated AI literacy courses, things like that. But I think we probably need to, later you'll see student recognize as well. We need to design learning for developing these competencies in our disciplinary courses in our own context. That will become important. So what I want to show today is some pretty simple work, but in this context, I think it's meaningful. So I teach this introductory ecology course, ECCB 205, and I'll tell more about the course as well. And what I'd like to share today, just briefly, once we sort of try to ask students, right, say what's their reflection on the role, their own perception on the role of AI in their career success, and what's their needs and concerns for developing these competencies while they're in college. Then I'll mention mostly one, but I'll mention there's another some pieces in our course. We try to incorporate AI into that, some kind of incremental steps. Then for one of those is a larger inquiry project. I'll say more about that too, that we have students do a reflection on their experiences and learning through a assignment using AI to improve their inquiry report. So let me just tell you a little bit about this class, the context, maybe this will be relevant. And this is one of the core curriculum course, and it's a large class. So we should have 2 sections, up to 500 students or a little bit more. In the last 2 years, last 2 falls at least, we added an online section as well. I've been teaching the large section for almost 30 years, but this fall and last fall, actually, I taught that online section. I started out and kind of put that together as well, experimenting with a few different things. And it's a very diverse class in terms of composition, and it's a sophomore core level course, but over about 60% of freshmen and sophomore. There's a lot of freshmen in there as well. And then 40% of the class are actually upper level students, and they're coming from many different majors. All the natural resource majors, this is a required course for them. So we probably have half of the class that's the courses required. The rest are for core curriculum requirements as an elect. And about 10 years ago, we did a major kind of a redesign of the course. We got a grant from university, one of the redesign core grants. So we have a blended kind of format for the course. Even the in-person one is the same. So basically, we were going to develop our own set of videos, all kind of things. But lucky for us at the time, and there's a group who has been publishing kind of online simulation-based labs for long time, for a few decades. They came up with basically a simulation-based interactive online course for ecology, but it's very different from any other textbook. It has really good pedagogy. They have a multiple grants for the development. Like they have students introduce the contact, present the situations, having student making predictions, doing simulations, and eventually lead them to the concept. So it's really good design, very interactive. So basically, we were able to have students just using this the simultext ecology. That's this platform called. So they go through those. And then on a few topics, it's not quite covered there. Then we make our own module, videos and quizzes and so on. Then we have weekly quizzes. That covers everything happened the previous week. And that's a really good approach as well. We have sort of a one question for each concept, but we'll have multiple different alternative questions. Student can take the quiz twice. They will get different questions, and the higher the score will be recorded. Then we have them do a 6-week long authentic ecological inquiry project. That's where we have them give them the assignment on AI. I'll say more about those inquiry projects. Then when we come to class, given that kind of a blended format, we don't need to cover all the things they already studied. Many of them are straightforward, but there are others, especially key concepts. There are many misconceptions or certain topics just more difficult. So we were able to, in the class, spend most time focus on those key concepts, misconceptions. We use peer instruction, think, pair, share with iClicker and so on. We do more involved small or large case studies to really kind of providing more context, facilitate integration, those kind of things. And then we do mini lectures either to recap certain things or some cover certain topics that's not covered in the online material. Then we do fairly frequent kind of both formative and summative assessment with self-reflection, direct assessment, and so on. We have 4 unit exams. Then we have the weekly quizzes online. In class, we do iClicker all the time. And so for the inquiry project, I'll mention there's some assessment as well. So this is overall class. And the so-called authentic inquiry project is some of you familiar with the spectrum of inquiry-based learning, right? From very guided, everything's prescribed, all the way to the other end called open inquiry or authentic inquiry. Basically, students have responsible for everything. We're just there to support it. So in this case, we provide a setting so students can, they will conduct background studies related to inquiry. Most importantly, they will examine raw materials to identify pattern and formulate their own research hypothesis based on the observation, right? Then we have them design their own investigation to test the hypothesis. We do some mini lecture on sampling biases and those kind of things. And so they will design their sampling regime, define their variables, make sure that's appropriate to test hypothesis and so on. So that's a key piece that open inquiry or authentic inquiry has, many others don't. So that's important. Now, of course, then they'll follow up their own design, collect, analyze data, interpret results, writing a report, and we'll have them conduct peer review, then revise the report and so on. So we really focus on, in terms of our objectives, developing understanding of the process of science. In more recent literature, like one of the National Academy report a few years ago, really focus on, when it comes to science literacy, focus on not just the knowledge, but it's also the scientific practice that's really important. Also, science as a social process. Then we hope to focus on enhancing skills about critical thinking and written communication. So here's over the years, different inquiry project we have worked on quite a few. We started about 20 years ago. But today, in last 2 fall semesters, the data I'm going to report are these last 2 inquiry projects related to some of our current research, and then also related to citizen science as well. So one's about based on game cam photos about animals, livestock and wildlife, how they respond to prescribed burns, because our research focus on fire and how fire in different plant communities influence animal distribution behavior. Another one is on birds. We have acoustic recordings in different stations in different communities, burned and burned. Then we have I'll show you a few pictures with the kind of we call spectrogram, a graphical representation of the sound as material for them to work on. So here's one, the first one, fire animal. You can see the lower right here is the interface of the zonoverse, right? Student can basically give photos, they identify which animal, which species, how many of them, what's their behavior, and so on. So we use these as raw material for them to kind of conduct that process. And so this is sort of a description, just helpful for me to walk through. You see over the like 5-6 weeks what they do, and they have a Zonoverse assignment, getting used to that platform, learn about that. It's individual inquiry project, but we put them into group of about 10. And then in the online class, a smaller group to give each other feedback. They have weekly requirements to post, to give feedback, and so on. So again, they will formulate a hypothesis based on observation or pattern or animal distribution behavior, and then design their methods for test hypothesis. Then we do this lockstep, so we can have our own discussion every class on these as well. Then they will collect the data, and the writer submit a report and kind of peer review, then do the revision and so on. So all along the process, they are in the group giving each other feedback. We do have a rubric, kind of it's a 30 item here, shows 10 categories, pretty simple. Basically, we're counting things about what they need to do, whether they did that or not in a scientific report. This is not only the rubric for the report itself, really is for the inquiry process itself. And AI also come in play when we come to do that. So here's another project that we did this fall. It's on the birds. And in the lower right, you see this is called a spectrogram. Basically, it's a graphical representation of the sound, right? The x-axis is the time, then y-axis is their pitch, and the different color have their kind of the volume and so on. So it's have a similar setup for this. Okay, then what do we? So here's what we actually did related to AI. Number one, before we don't get into the inquiry project until after the first quarter of the semester. So before that, near the beginning of the class, we just want to get a sense what's their perception about AI. So we asked them these two questions. In this online class, what I did is that instead of, because I cannot use iClicker is not quite efficient, so I switched to use Poll Everywhere since we have the site license. So I just have an open-ended question for them. So ask them to share their thoughts about how important AI competency skills will be for their career beyond college, and why they think so, and what are ask them what's their needs and concerns about developing these competencies when they're in college. So so here's kind of a quick summary. I use AI to derive these as well, but modify them. So overall, it's pretty clear. Students do see AI competency as a must-have for their to kind of future-proof their careers, and but they're quite mindful about seeking balanced, ethical, and well-guided approach to developing these skills. Although I'm not sure they're very specific. They know very specifically what are those. And we do have a student say, "Oh, AI is still not quite important in my field yet." Like they identified veterinary medicine. So again, clearly that's not the case, right? So many students just have not really delved into AI much to get a really good sense of that. But many are using, but probably is in daily setting, not in this more professional or academic setting. When they share their needs, many students do say that they want more hands-on learning opportunities to practice with AI in more, they say, not just in one class. We want to do this in all the classes, in our own settings. So they want the practical skills and also learning to developing adaptability, given how fast AI change, to use AI in real academic and real workplace settings. They want us to help them developing those. That's what their needs. And also many of them say they want clear guidance on ethical and appropriate AI use. clearly you can see there are two motivation there in the wording that reflect that. Some basically say, yes, we just need to learn this, right? And we can have a long discussion about what these are. But many others really, again, that's clearly they are worried. They don't want to get in trouble. They want to know what the instructor is expecting, what's the rules of each instructor, and so on. So it's a kind of dangerous, tricky landscape for them to navigate because inconsistency among us. Uh, what's our mindset and how we approach these things. Then some of the concerns, they want AI to be supplement, not replace their own problem solving and creativity. I suspect that piece actually changed a little bit later too, because again, they may not understand what those are or what really limitation. And they worry about over reliance of AI, loss of critical thinking, and potential for cheating. Again, in my own opinion, the cheating piece is really on us. Is what kind of assignment we gave. If we give the one they can cheat, I can do, we probably should make a different one. And the loss of critical thinking, I think later you'll see some evidence that students realize that's not the case. Okay, so we did it early in the semester. Then when we finish, going toward the end of the inquiry project, again, this 6-week process, near the end, so after they've done their peer review, they're revising the report to submit, then my TA will grade it using the same rubric. I gave an extra credit assignment, basically asked them to improve their inquiry report using AI tools. I talked to them earlier as well, so some have used earlier, but here I gave, I'll show you some, so here basically this is an assignment actually saying, ask them to do that. In the middle paragraph, really emphasize, we mentioned this before in class as well, saying, AI is a tool. You're in charge. You're responsible for everything. You really need to work on this carefully. But later, from the results, the student get that actually from their practice. So basically, I asked them. I'll show the 3 prompts I gave to them. But we basically say after you've done that, submit a reflection to talk about 2 things. Number one, how you were able to improve your inquiry project using AI2, if at all, right? And number 2, the specific ways or aspect in which AI was helpful or not helpful. And we want their feedback, their reflection. By the way, so only one student, he or she probably is a very good student, and said, really AI, I ran through AI really did not give me anything. My report is really good. I can did not make much difference, which is possible, right? But for most students, that's not the case at all. By the way, the 3 prompts, the first one is basically uh, it's much longer because I have a guideline for the inquiry project. Those rubrics is all part of this prompt. This prompt are more of just one thing is ask AI to ask student to upload the report, then give some guidance to the AI about the level of the class, what's appropriate, and so on. And AI did not do really well. They still went off a bit, but that's what we tried. Prompt 2 and 3 actually worked really well. And so 2 basically say identify colloquial or kind of casual expressions, and also gave them a few, 2 or 3 different suggestions about alternatives. And students really like that. And then prompt 3 is again identify repeats. Then they often do that. And so I gave some alternative suggestions. And we have about 60 some different responses. So I use AI to kind of summarize. I read through all of them, then try to summarize. I changed the wording a little bit. So here's my kind of a summary. It's a bit of wordy. So it's really clear. You see the student reflection, right? Say they really recognize that AI tools substantially improved their inquiry report. That really, they thought that's really helpful, okay? And so on the writing, the structure, and especially scientific tone, that's hard for many students. So many students identify I was valuable for identify and correcting grammar errors, of course, eliminating colloquial languages, which is really hard to do for them, refining even their hypotheses, objectives, reorganize the report for clarity, and suggest for scientific phrasing, which is also is hard for them to do. And because we have the rubric in there, the AI actually provide item by item analysis based on the rubric, give them score and give specific comments. And many students find that's helpful, although AI does not always get that right. So that's tricky. That also triggers students to be more careful to say, okay, how do I use this? And AI turned out to be really effective in kind of identify redundant repeats of language, or also provides kind of alternatives. So, and student, most of them also reported clearly they see the limitations. And most often is that they recognize, oh, AI actually, it's hard for AI to grasp the context of the or specific details of this scientific report, the nuance, because these students have gone through all that. Look at all the data, identify pattern, make the hypothesis, designs, went to collect all the data, wrote a report. So they know the material pretty intimately. And they say, oh, yeah, I did not get it. Suggesting that, no, that's wrong, and so on. And so, for example, AI asks them to do more stats, which is not required, and misinterpret the figure data, and so on. But so the outcome is that the AI really can, although I improved a lot of things for them, and they realize that they really needs their own discretion for this. And so many students comment on the human critique remains essential. Okay, so really recognize AI as just a tool. Another thing I want to mention here briefly is that it's really clear. You can see that students' perception of AI's usefulness definitely changed for most of them. And there you see many phrases, oh, I did not, I was surprised. I did not expect to see AI can do all that. Oh, this is really helpful, and so on. So, but at the beginning, they also reflect on that, but also we have some earlier, the other kind of prompt earlier as well. So many begin with skepticism or minimum expectations. And again, some worry about academic integrity, even going to this. We have to ensure them. And also they say, oh, I'm not sure how much AI can help. But afterwards, most of them say, oh, yeah, that's really helpful. In very concrete ways, they can identify. They say, they're just waving their hand. They say, okay, they're really helpful in this ways because they see that, right? Improving clarity, the tone, structure, alignment with rubric, they see the specific. They mention those. And this is interesting. Many of them identify to make statements, say AI actually identify things they never noticed. They say, I never thought about that before. Or say, I would not have thought that or figured that out. And many also comment, because this is after their peer review. They had 4 peers review their report, giving feedback. And they say, compared to feedback AI gave, it's so much richer than my peers. My peers give me grades and give a sentence or so. They cannot recognize these. So they really recognize the value what AI can provide in this case, mostly improving writing, but the structure and so on as well. And the student also comment on how they themselves become more discerning. They recognize these strengths, these true concrete benefits, but also these shortcomings as well. So they arrive at a place they many think, they really think AI is helpful, and really they recognize it's sometimes really transformative. It's really different for at least for revision and learning too, but they recognize this is only a tool. It's a supplement. They cannot just rely on that to replace their work. They need to work with that, and so their selectivity, their critical thinking is also really important. I have not, but I was thinking about asking them, although it's a little tricky, only some of the students have done this. After this, what their reflection is about how much they're worried they're going to lose critical thinking skills by using AI. And chances are, I think they would recognize there will be different things. They need to use critical thinking, probably it's even more complex, deeper ways of using those skills. So I was going to put in some quotes here as well. Then I ran out of time. Recognize we don't have a lot of time here either. So I just only put these summaries here. But a few things really strike me that's really helpful to me is that to see student through the experiences, they can discern the value. They really recognize value. And again, the grammar, the kind of a casual tone, scientific tone, those kind of things. If you think about it, that's really important because they really need to know, right? For technical writing, most of them will do, even not scientific, they need that. But I think about how, in especially large classes, how difficult it is to provide those feedback to students. And if they actually read it and do something. This exercise really that AI can democratize this education in this way to really provide sort of a tutoring service, right? Individual based, individual kind of focused feedback, specific tailored feedback for these things that's hard for them to get on their own. Now through this, even it's hard from get from their peer review process. Certainly can come from us, but that's hard to do. But AI can give them this, can repeatedly give them. They can ask, some of did try multiple times, do additional prompts. So in that way, that's seems to me that's a really great value for education. And also this process make them really recognize concrete values and concrete limitations and recognize their own role in this. That's really good critical thinking and also really good metacognition, really growth on their part. Uh, so I was pretty happy to see where they see their what they get out of these experiences. And many actually comments on comments made comments saying, "Oh, I never thought about this, and this is really helpful. I need to do this on my other classes too." So they recognize value for their own learning and so on. Okay, that's all the slides I have here. I'll be very happy to chat about. See any questions or thoughts you guys have.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Do you use data for analysis for AI? Like, do you give them examples to work like defining a term or a statistical method that walks them through with your data sets?
Okay, no, not in this case. So what? Two things. One is that this is very low level. Students have a very diverse background. Many never had any stat course and so on. So basically, I don't ask them to do stats. I say if you know, you can do it. If you don't worry about it. Just make those charts and so on. Basically, graphically represent your results. Some may not even know how to do a standard deviation, right? but most of them do. So in that sense, I did not. I know a few students actually tried that. Uh, but we did not push that part at all. Mostly focus on writing, both structuring, articulation, kind of a style and those side of things.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben. I have
Hi,
been
Rose.
always enjoying your talk and your classes. So I feel really great to learn, okay, this is a wonderful process to lead students to use AI and apply AI in a more appropriate way. So I want to follow up with Taylor's question. So we know this is entrance level courses, so you will design this way. But then if later, maybe one day, you want to implement this in more advanced level lessons, what do you think you will try to add more component into this kind of setting?
Yeah. So many of the specific, maybe you guys think I'm not done, but I've done a few things for a graduate course. Usually relate to, and my own student we together explore quite a bit, more of increasing our productivity. For example, for literature survey review, building the initial literature matrix. There are three different. I think my student mostly using two of them. They are AI tools that's really powerful, right? I'm drawing a blank on the names, but it's basically you can do the initial search and build in the literature matrix for you. You can add any columns you want. Now you can basically have a really fast start to get you to some level that will otherwise take the student maybe a month to do. then you can go from there, right? And there's also one of the AI tool called consensus. That basically is that you give a actual claim, a statement. You will go find all the papers that specifically address that claim. Then we'll say it's for or against that, and put all those together for you. That's precious. Think about how much time that will take us to do, especially for certain things I'm really familiar with. But when I'm writing a paper, if I need to say something that's not what I'm working on, I'm not so familiar with, I'm going to end up spending a lot of time to do that. But this consensus get me there just very quickly, right? For many things, I just need to say something about it. That will be sufficient. I don't need to go read more, because they not only say this paper is for or not, they actually pull out the specific quote from the paper, put there for you, so you can see, you can discern that way, right? Actually, I'm teaching we have for Taylor, we have a 2 writing intensive course. One's for sophomore, one's for senior, and I taught both before. So one of them oftentimes is just writing a research paper. So I already tried it a little bit, but I think for